water. The infrastructure has decayed.
We will now elevate our response to water crisis to a National Water Crisis Committee, which I will chair.
We're tired of listening to excuses. Water tankers are not the answer.
I don't know when last did I have a proper bath.
Financially, it has an impact, having to purchase bottles of water.
I want water, I want to open my tap, and I want a service that I pay for to come out of it.
They say water is life, but what is life like without water? It's topical, and it starts right now. A very good evening to you, South Africa, and those watching around the world. My name is Blaine Herman, and this is It's Topical. We welcome our panel getting into studio, as well as our live studio audience who are here to explain their lived realities, right? That's what It's Topical is all about, bringing the people with the answers to the people who desperately need the answers, right? Someone said, life is simple, just add water. But what if there's no water to add? Complicates life, right? Friday, that the water task team, right, which is chaired by the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, was briefed that electromechanical failures at Rand water pump stations and major pipe bursts in late January temporarily reduced bulk supply. Rand Water has since restored full capacity, we're told. However, the municipal systems, particularly in the city of Johannesburg, remains under pressure due to low reservoir levels, high demand due to the heat wave we've been experiencing here, aging infrastructure, and get this, water losses averaging 33%. Park that there for a bit and underline that. We'll come back to that in a short while. I'm going to explain more about that. Now, yesterday, we were told that overall Johannesburg water systems are gradually recovering. However, demand across the network remains high and continues to exceed the available capacity, which is what? Slowing down full system recovery. We will also show you some of the affected areas on your screen. Yes, no doubt, South Africa is regarded as a water scarce country. But working with what we have, is the way water resources are managed and distributed in this country up to scratch? What part do municipalities play in contributing to the water woes? In his State of the Nation address, President Cyril Ramaphosa said, in addition to crime, water is now the single most important issue for many people in this country, from large cities like Johannesburg to the smaller towns like Knysna, rural areas like Giani. He went on to say that poor planning and inadequate maintenance of water systems by many municipalities are the main cause of the problems that we are going through, and are the reasons, some of the reasons that our taps often run dry. Water is not only a localized issue, it's a continental issue, right? The President attended the 39th Ordinary Session of the African Union Assembly of Heads of State and Government sessions in Ethiopia this weekend. The theme is apt: assuring sustainable water availability and safe sanitation systems to achieve the goals of Agenda 2063. Now, the AU has designated 2026 as the year of water and sanitation. Continental access to sustainable water. What does that mean to you and me living here in South Africa? We will discuss. It brings us to the question of the week, and we ask you, as water shortages persist in parts of Gauteng, how are you coping, and what urgent actions do you expect from authorities? Let us know at SABC News_TV. Perspective coming up. All right, before we get into the discussions, let's hear from Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majodina, who has assured South Africans that the country's water crisis will be resolved. And the minister was in conversation with SABC News specialist correspondent Sophie Mokoena on the sidelines of the African Union Leaders Summit in Ethiopia. Take a look.
We don't have a crisis in terms of water availability. We do have water. Our water security is in the balance. We have enough water in all our big dams we can provide. But as we pump water, the infrastructure has decayed. The water is leaking. When you go on each and every street of Joburg, Tshwane, eThekwini, you name them, you cross water going down the street. That water is a treated water that is supposed to be in the taps, but it does not go to the taps. The growing population need a lot of reservoirs. We have said to all municipalities, ring fence water sales to invest back to water infrastructure. They've not done so. Hence today, their system has collapsed because they don't have engineers, they don't have scientists, and we are working together on the non-negotiables with all municipalities who are water service providers as well as service authorities. But without water, in the continent, we are nothing. But also there is a lot of illegal connections, and those illegal connections lead us to mafias, water mafias. Our water infrastructure is vandalized day in and day out.
All right, that was the Water and Sanitation Minister a little earlier on, speaking to SABC News specialist correspondent Sophie Mokoena there. It sets the discussion up nicely. Let me introduce my guest to you, the panel that we have gathered here. David Mahlobo, who is the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for your time. We also have the Johannesburg Mayor, Dada Morera, with us tonight. Sir, good to have you on the program, as well as Dr. Ferial Adam, Executive Manager at WaterCAD. Appreciate it. As I said, we have our live audience here, made up from various parts of Johannesburg. Johannesburg South, we have Midrand, there's Brixton, Melville, Western, Coronation. So widespread, right? We even have students here. So I want to stay most of the time in this section, because you want answers. We're going to get some answers from our guests in the short while. But let me just get a sense of the scope, Deputy Minister, and the depth of the problem that we're currently experiencing. And I think it's important to understand the problem in order to figure out the solutions. How serious is it?
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thanks to the fellow panelists, including the citizens who are here. The problem is massive. Hence, President has decided to elevate this problem to a level called a National Water Crisis Committee that he will share. Local government is struggling. They need our help. Last year, you know, when he made those announcements, we produced a turnaround plan for the country with clear pillars to say how are we going to ensure water security. The country doesn't run out of water. What the minister refers as a bulk water supply, at least most of that work to bring a lot of bulk infrastructure projects that were delayed. We're pushing them. Lesotho is coming. You look at Glen Williams, there are many of them. I don't have a problem with that because we're doing so well. But the biggest problem we face is water and sanitation supply and reliability.
Right.
Our country reliability is down as far as around 67%. In Gauteng, that reliability that you have a chance to get water is as low as 50%. It means 50% of the time you have a chance that you'll have no water or you have an intermittent supply. And in the main, we have those reports, AG report, our own drop reports, right. The infrastructure is gone. Right. In other words, what do? You have to manage the current fleet that it doesn't collapse, like when there was a trick in one of our pump stations, and the system got the biggest shock because it was not in a healthy condition. Right. That's what we're actually trying to do, working with the executive mayor and all the mayors here, and also looking at how do we finance it, because we must admit investment in infrastructure, there's been a neglect. It has caught up with us. Right. Apart from lack of decisions where just basics, when you sell water or electricity, you should have kept the money aside so that when you sweat the asset, you invest back on the asset. Those are some of the fundamental issues we're doing. But the president has deployed the minister, myself, Minister Tlhabisa and Deputy Minister Masemula.
Yeah.
We will help this municipality to stabilize the situation, but it will continue to be erratic. We'll talk later.
Yes.
What are these measures that we're trying to support them to manage a very erratic and a vulnerable system?
We'll highlight some of the initiatives that the president mentioned, especially in the State of the Nation address. Mr. Mayor, let me bring you into this, because this is not a new problem. Who should be held accountable for the current crisis?
Well, you'd know that, good evening to everyone who's here. We are a government that has to take responsibility for the current challenges that we have, which includes, as you'd know, infrastructure, which is aging, infrastructure that requires to be refurbished. So it's our responsibility as government and as a city government to take that responsibility, and then, of course, mobilize the resources of national government, mobilize the resources from private sector, so that all of us can then work together to get this infrastructure back at a healthy level for it to be able to sustainably supply water to our communities. So it's our responsibility, and we are ready. We have taken responsibility in any case, and that is why the interventions that we're beginning to do. Those interventions include working together with national government, Rand Water, and of course raising money from other sources so that we can intervene and address the infrastructure in the city.
Dr. Adam, let me bring you into this. And as I said, I premised the question that it is not a new problem. As experts or people that are working in this field, when did we pick up that this problem is there, and could it have been solved quicker?
Good evening. I mean, I think that's a very good question because it's been years. It's, you know, you can go back 10 years. There are some places in Johannesburg that have not had running water for about 10 years. There are places in other parts of the country where they have taps but no water for 2 to 3 years. And this is ongoing. So I think it's not only Joburg, it's across the country that this has been happening. We've also got, you know, it doesn't take a small speck of a moment to get to a point where 70% of your wastewater treatment works are spewing sewage into your rivers. That doesn't happen overnight. And so we know that this has been going on for a long time. What is really lacking, and I'm really glad the mayor talked about it, is accountability. But we want real accountability. So when are we going to actually see people lose their job? And with this whole fanfare of this new committee, is there going to be, we still don't know who's going to be on this committee and what exactly this committee is going to do. But can we get it so that if people cannot do their job, will they step down?
Right. It's an important point. Let's bring in the audience. And I was drawn to this young lady who I think many people have seen already. Is it me, or are you the lady that washed her hair in the streets?
You want me to do it here?
not just here. But look, it underlines, I guess, the seriousness of the issues. Tell us your name and what are you going through?
My name is Dr. Lisa Lowe. I am a filmmaker and a semi-retired academic. And I feel that we as the people, we have brought about this intervention. And it's really, really important, and we are going to continue with this until the problem is solved.
How long haven't you had water?
This time around, nearly 4 weeks.
4 weeks. And so your name?
Edmund.
And where are you from, Edmund?
I'm from Coronationville.
And what's the situation in Coronationville?
Well, our situation goes back to 2020. 2021, Gift of the Givers came to put in boreholes in Rahima Musa and Helen Joseph. And since then, up to now, the universities, the schools, everybody, nothing has happened. I am disappointed in the mayor. When we had a protest last time, Ferriel was there at the protest and he says, Coronation's problem is solved. Coronation's problem was never solved. They put the link to, unfortunately, I think, the water board and the water engineers must resign. They're incompetent and they cannot. I did a survey checking their credentials.
Right.
There's only about 3 or 4 that is educated, that has degrees. The rest of them is sitting and just receiving money.
Well, let's test that. Let's put it to the Mayor. Mayor, do you have a response for the gentleman from Coronationville?
Well, the gentleman is correct. We had challenges in Coronation. I went personally to meet with communities, and we then said the interventions that we're going to do so that we can restore water supply, and we had to go into the Crosby line and diverted it so that the community had water. And I think after a period of about 2 weeks then, I might not remember the actual days, they received water in Coronation. Now with this current situation, I think Coronation is 5 days, if not 7 days without water. And this is as a result of the current problem that we are faced with, which we have explained. It started all out from the 26th of January with the Klipfontein reservoir, the rainwater reservoir, having a leak, which meant we are all in a problem. We had to sort out that problem.
Right.
That's when Coronation started facing the problems. But what we did last year with that intervention, they had water throughout.
Right. Let's go back to our guests. Your name, sir, where are you from?
Costas from Midrand. But I've got a question for the Mayor and the Deputy Minister. Let's address the elephant in the room, the water mafias that we are running around. What have you, Mr. Mayor, done to protect the infrastructure in a form of putting in the security on the key, call it, what is the thing, reservoirs? What have you done about that? To the Deputy Minister, an executive is killed a couple of years ago from rainwater. Have you done an audit on the existing executives as to whether have they received money from that point, or 3 months before, or 6 months after the death of that executive, including the executives at Joburg Water? I just want to know, what have you done about that?
Let's go to the Deputy Minister first, then the Mayor.
No, thank you so much. We have indicated that, firstly, let's deal with the question to say, are these engineers incompetent? The answer is a big no, especially for rainwater and Joburg Water. I was on the ground yesterday. They know their job. Very, very competent, because as a former practitioner myself, I know what it means to run a system. In the main, they need, one, the issues of the tools of trade. If the finances are not available, how are they going to build additional reservoirs to create the backup if the system fails? And Comrade Mayor, I'm happy that he has started building the reservoirs. They are inadequate, because remember, most of the reservoirs in Johannesburg, you bypass them. It's not electricity. If you bypass a reservoir, it's going to take time to recharge. If you don't have money to do pipe replacement, and you have an about major burst, and including minor burst, of 10,000 per month, you lose the what? Is it incompetence? It's about getting the support that they do that work. Issues around the aspect of, there are those that are not working, I must admit. When there's a bust that gets reported maybe by John Wilkinson, they come during the day, they don't fix it, then they come at night so that they can get an overtime. That ill discipline must be addressed. On issues of mafias, it's a big issue. We have said it's one of the biggest elements around the tankering is causing problems. Right. That's why we say let's insource it so that we don't have people that are going to be interfering with the network system, so that you don't get the water in the taps. You can't get water through tankering in a city. The population is too big. Right. There are issues of corruption and tender. We know that in unfortunate incident of our brother that was killed, and we're very happy that the law enforcement agencies have acted very swiftly to deal with those particular issues. But more importantly, they are all being subjected to lifestyle audit. It's not only in Gauteng. Remember, in Durban, those people that were actually operating just the depot where you are actually putting water in a tank, they were killed. Imagine someone allowing a tanker to come through. is a phenomenon. That's why the President decided that the water infrastructure issue must be part of the interministerial committee that is dealing with critical infrastructure and vandalism, and ensure that it becomes a Schedule 6 offence.
Ferial, I know you're shaking your head, but let me get the Mayor's response and then I'll come to you.
No, I think the DM has responded quite adequately. However, in Johannesburg, I must indicate that we treat our reservoirs as national key points, and that is why we have ensured in all our reservoirs there's proper security that we have deployed in all the reservoirs. Yes, you can go and check it yourself. We have contracted private security, of course, with the armed response to look after our reservoirs. But where does the vandalism take place? It takes place in the pipeline, not necessarily at your reservoir. Where the pipes are running, that's where you'll get those pipes being disorganized or vandalized. But the reservoirs, majority of it, it's a structural issue, and that is why some of them have a challenge. Because structurally, they're required to be refurbished. So that's basically what is happening. All our reservoirs, we've got proper security that is looking after the reservoirs.
Let me just one matter, just to qualify. On the competency, I'm referring to the staff I've met at Joburg and Randwater. But there are other municipalities, so that people don't twist my words.
Yes.
There are other municipalities across the country. I'm from KwaZulu-Natal right now. Appointments are wrong, and they've appointed people who are just technicians instead of a fully fledged professional registered engineer. It differs from other areas, but the attack or criticism that is based on Joburg Water, I've been on the ground, I've understood the minute details, what needs to be done there. And if we give them the support, we hold them accountable, they will have to perform.
Right. Doc, I mean, we focusing on Johannesburg, it's an economic hub, so it sticks out. But other cities, other provinces around this country are not immune to these issues, right?
No, not at all. I mean, I think that when we look at skills, and I think the Deputy Minister has just said it now, is that in the big metros, you might have quite a bit of skills in some of the smaller towns, but in many of the areas where you look at where they're doing the blue drop and green drop audits, they don't have the skills on hand at water treatment plants or wastewater treatment works. So that is definitely something that's lacking across the country. Then also in your blue drop and green drop, you would have, if a municipality isn't able to do what they need to do, there are recommendations within the blue drop and green drop, but they don't have the people to do it. Right. So you actually have a system of that poor performance. But I want to come back to some of the things that was mentioned on Joburg specifically. Talking about the engineers on the ground, I have to agree, we do have good people, engineers, we've met with them, we've worked with them, but the problem is, you have a tiny group of people carrying the weight of this entire city. And then every time things go wrong, those are the people that have to deal with it, and those are the ones that are facing the kind of the music.
So what's the solution here?
No, this is what where I'm coming to, is that we have to give, if we really are committed to fixing the issues here in this province or in this particular city, we have to give it the money it needs. We have to give it the teams. There are people who are volunteering, who are retired engineers who want to be part of the teams that can join and assist. So you can't give Joburg Water a 1.7 or 1.9 or it's 1.7 billion rand budget for capital expenditure when they need at least 3 billion given everything that's going on. Also, we have the sweeping arrangement, which still continues, where money goes out, and they have not been able to pay contracts on a regular basis, and that is still a challenge.
The President did mention that there's, 150 billion rand that will be allocated. Are you saying that's not enough over the next 3 years?
156 billion that the President mentioned, I believe, is for the big infrastructure projects for the country. And then there's a 56 billion that goes to municipalities. That's not enough. Okay. The minister herself said for some of the worst performing municipalities, we need 400 billion. But in total, we need, you're talking about trillions. I do want to add about the water tanker mafia, if I may. Right. I think that is a serious issue. They are kind of vandalizing the pipes, as the mayor says. But we need to make sure that our politicians, we need to have an audit of politicians who may have shares in these water tanker companies, and they must be exposed. We know that that happens and it exists.
Deputy Minister, I know you want to jump in, but just hold your thought. I just want to get a few more questions for the live realities that our audience is. Your name and where you're from?
I'm Bridget Fanuela and I'm from Westine.
And how long have you not had water?
Well, we have drips, but we've got a lot of streets that don't have water, and it happens often. I think mine is more community-based, is that we live in an area where we have an old age home. I know some of our neighbouring suburbs as well have problems getting water. And so I speak as a community leader in our community, or community activist in our area, sorry. And what I'd like to know is that why are the residents being treated with such disrespect? We have water tankers that go out. Nobody's told when the water tankers go out. Our councillors beg. Our councillors are all working together, despite whatever political party they're from. They ask when our water tankers are going out. They ask what times we'll have water tankers. The Jojos are not full. There's old age homes that are not getting water. There's people living in areas like Westbury and Coronationville around us. There's elderly people who live on the top of flats who can't come down the stairs. So what is being done? So mine is more community orientated about why are you treating communities right across the city with such disrespect? Why can we not have a schedule so that we know when our water's coming out and when we can go and hit tankers? And on the second point is, why are we not having public-private partnerships where we have two huge universities in Johannesburg? We have Pretoria University, so in Gauteng we've got 3. Why are we not working with the engineering students?
So partnerships and communications key. We'll mark that. So your name is, where are you from?
My name is Rochi Zwa and I'm from Richmond. I can speak on behalf of students, and honestly, it has been rough these past few weeks. I've been skipping classes. Imagine, like, I can go to class without bathing, taking shower and stuff. And I know for a certain that most of the students, they've been sleeping without eating, because like most of the groceries that we buy are supposed to be cooked. How can we cook without water? And thinking of going to the toilet, we cannot go to the toilet without water to flush the toilet.
Right. So I'll come back to you in a short. Let me go across here because I skipped 2 people on my left-hand side. So your name and where are you from?
My name is Samir. I'm from Johannesburg South.
And how's the situation in your area?
Look, again, from a community perspective, right? We have elderly people that, carry a 20-litre bucket and takes them 40-45 minutes to carry it up, probably 800 or 900 meters up the road. How do people like that live? I mean, how often must the lady come up and down to get water, right? Just last week we saw a little grandmother with 3 or 4 of her grandkids coming with little bottles like this here to fill up, right? And in school bags and things. And these kids were not more than 8-9 years old. Right. And, again, should the kid go to school? Should the kid help the grandmother get some water? So it's almost... You're taking the dignity away from people, and that's really heartbreaking.
It's tough decisions. Ma'am, your name, and let me just get across here, and where are you from?
I am Councillor Annette Deppy from Midrand, Ward 132. I have 2 questions. Firstly, for the Deputy Minister. Why did the Minister 2 weeks ago say she will wash her hands off the city of Joburg? She made a public statement. I'd like to know why. And secondly, why did she not arrive in her own meeting on Friday night with all the councillors of City of Joburg? She called the meeting for 11 o'clock. She then cancelled the meeting to 4 o'clock. When we came onto the meeting, we had a 3-hour meeting and she was not present. That's for the Deputy Minister. For the Mayor, what's happened to the money that was approved by your GLU in November of 745 billion rand for Joburg Water? What have you done with that money? Where is that money? Why has that money not been transferred to Joburg Water to start the infrastructure upgrades?
Thank you very much. I think we need to get those answers immediately. I know we need to take a break, Control, but let me get those answers before we do it. Deputy Minister?
Maybe what we need to do, because we can hold people accountable, fully agree, but we must send a message, what are we doing to resolve the problem? As when deployed by President, I was already here with the Mayor when the incident happened. I visited these areas, Midrand and others. We have agreed with the Mayor that to deal with the number of leaks and stabilize the system, they have to bring in short-term contracts to deal with the capacity. Because if they don't do that, you are losing too much water and you still have to pay for it. And we can't keep it in those reservoirs. Secondly, we have agreed with the Mayor Ferriel that even the city manager was there. By the end of this month, they will have to be able to say how much are they ring-fencing. We are not taking 100% of the money from the water sales, but the biggest portion must go to water, and councillors must make that council decision. You cannot be able to use trading services for water and electricity, and the basic of sweating of an asset to invest back. Those are the major one. And then this storage capacity that Brixton, that the mayor has brought on board, the others here in Midrand and others. At least those are the things that where I can feel that there is a stabilization. As a team sent by the president, we will make time to come and see you. But more importantly, we're with your executive mayor and the deputy president. We made a determination that the leadership of the metro, let's give you space, you have to take full responsibility. You have to be able to be briefed, all councillors on daily basis. Equally, councillors, they must brief communities to manage your system. On our side, we will never wash away hands on any organization. Local government, if they are not doing well, will support them. If they are not willing to be supported, President has said, we'll intervene, because we cannot continue to have citizens like students and everybody, the elderly, being inconvenienced on the basis that there is no water.
Mr. Mayor?
Well, I think there was a question around partnerships. We have an existing partnership with Wits University, between Joburg Water and Wits University, and part of the programs that they've been working on was around boreholes, especially in informal settlements. And that program is going very well. So we do create partnerships as and when they are necessary to contribute towards helping Johannesburg. So we are on the right track. Yes, some of the institutions of learning which are within this area in particular have been battling also for supply of water, and we acknowledge that they will naturally be affected because they're within that area. But what we try to do is to ensure that at least we try to push water tankers to help those institutions. Where there's still weaknesses on water tankers, we'll accept any advice on where the shortage is and what we need to do. We have drawn out the water tankers to specific areas where there's still pressure. Where there's no pressure, we've pulled them out. So we should be able to do so. But over and above, also to touch on the mafias, what we have then done is Joburg, we have now received 19 tankers that are city-owned. And in the next financial year in July, we're also going to order an extra 20. Eventually, in the outer year, we'll order the last 20 so that we have a fleet of 60, and then we can get rid of contractors with the hope that it will bring efficiency. It will also help us to deal with infrastructure being vandalized. So those are the things that we are doing in relation to the current questions that you have asked on contractors and tankers. But certainly the questions as asked in terms of what we are spending, once we have approved, you'd know that the city must then undergo a process of budget adjustments, look at what we agreed on in November, and then put it in as part of the budget adjustments. Then it goes to council for final approval. Normally, council of March will have to consider the budget adjustment. Where are we, what we have agreed on, and what we have readjusted as part of the budget. Because you have to pass the budget once in terms of the law. The next step is only when you do adjustments. So I think those things are being looked at. But primarily, we are also looking at what we call service entities reforms, which are working very well with National Treasury, which is going to help us now to remodel how entities should be funded. You'll remember that how we've been funding metros, or particular the Metro of Johannesburg, post the Egoli 2002, which model is the model that we've been operating on to fund entities and to fund the entire
institution.
Well, the President did mention, Ferial, that in his State of the Nation address that they are in the final stages of establishing this National Water Resource Infrastructure Agency. And this is to manage the country's water infrastructure and mobilize funding for water infrastructure. Green shoots?
Look, I think that that agency will look at the bigger infrastructure. So you're looking at bulk water supply predominantly. And I think the issue that was raised about, the minister saying that we deal with national and local governments must deal with local governments is a real thing, because that's part of our policy and act that exists and does stranglehold it. But I want to say one thing is that I think the fact that we're sitting here, the fact that we've got the minister now talking about water, the deputy minister, has been because civil society has been so loud and the communities have been so loud that they haven't been able to ignore it. We hope that this spreads because other parts of the country have similar issues. I think on the ring fencing, we need honest answers. We need real numbers, because it's not enough. The president talked about ring fencing in SONA 2025. We've been told by the mayor that we'll have ring fencing by 2026, or the mechanisms will be in place by 2026. Wow. So they won't. Now I'm hearing that by the end of this month we will have ring fencing. Also, that it's not going to be all the money. We heard previously that it's 33% will be ring fenced for water and sanitation. Now, that is not going to be enough. We are in and I'm so glad everyone's now saying we're in a crisis. But that means we need to act in crisis mode. And 33% of the money is not going to be able to deal with. If we really want to save our water infrastructure and sanitation, we need to replace 250 kilometers of pipeline a year. What have we done so far? In this financial year, they hope to get to 84.
And that talks to the non-revenue water that's been lost, I guess, due to leaks, etc. We'll touch base on that in a short while. We need to take a quick break. We're asking you about your lived realities. What's happening in your home? How are you coping with water outages? And what do you want from your leaders, your elected government officials, those who are put there to make your life better? Let us know at SABC News_TV. We'll get you some more of the lived realities from the folks behind me, as well as some answers from a panel. Next. Welcome back. You're watching It's Topical. We've gathered, as you can see, a number of people who have been affected by water shortages in Gauteng, and we want to know about their lived realities, also yours as well. Let us know at SABC News_TV. You heard what the president had to say in the State of the Nation address, saying that government has already laid criminal charges against 56 municipalities who have failed to meet their obligations. Now, the president tells us they're going after the municipal managers in their personal capacity because for violating the National Water Act. How does that make you feel? Does that give you hope that there is steps being taken in the right direction? We'll get some reaction from our audience as well as our panel. Let's speak to some of them. Ma'am, your name and where you from?
My name is Surprise. I'm coming from Brixton. I'm a UG student. As a student, we are struggling here in University of Johannesburg because we have to buy water. We have to buy water for drinking, bathing, the toilets, and also in the university is also struggling because they are forced to lock all the bathrooms. Imagine we have to study in the library, and the library usually close at 10. Now they are forced to close at 6. And during the day, the bathrooms are not working. They are forced to lock the bathrooms. Now it's affecting our studies and it's also affecting our classes. I had to go to class without bathing because I couldn't miss the class. So what about the NSFAS students who don't have funding? They are forced to go to classes, and some of them are missing classes, like the gentleman has said, because of water.
And how long has this been going on?
Ever since I came back, because I reside in Venda, I'm here in Johannesburg for studies. So I came back on the 1st of Feb. There was no water. Even now, there's no water.
Right. So your name and where you from?
Xolela from Midrand. And on our side, there's no communication to start with. We don't know when we're going to have water or when we're not going to have water. It would be great if actually we can have communication that during this time we're not going to have water so that we can make preparations, because it's quite disheartening to wake up to empty taps when you need to prepare for work, and you have to make a hustle in the morning, very early in the morning, so that you can bath and go to work. And when you come back, you don't know where the water tankers are. You hear that there's water tankers, but there's no communication. And when you reach out to your ward councillor, the councillor doesn't know where the water tankers are or what time they're going to be there. And also, my question to actually the mayor is, if we know that there's a water mafia, what steps are they doing to track the water mafia? I appreciate that he said that there's security in the reservoirs, but that's like putting a band-aid to the situation. We need to get to the core of the person responsible for the damage of the infrastructure.
Right. Let's not waste any time, Mr. Mayor. Direct answer to that?
Let me respond to, but I also want to deal with the UGA situation, which we are now supplying from Brixton. So if the colleagues or the students could check what is the current state now, because surely there should be some supply, because we're pulling it from the Brixton.
Are you saying there's no supply?
No, there's no water at all.
No, that's fine, but you should be getting water now, because we are now pulling it from Brixton. The Brixton Reservoir. But if it's still not there, let's see tomorrow if the water will be there, because we are pumping it. Let me respond to the water mafia. Well, the city of Johannesburg is looking after its infrastructure through, as I said, our own security to help us deal with that. Where there's serious issues like that of water mafias, we refer that to the South African Police Service for them to help us to investigate. At least at City Power, we do have a capacity of our internal investigating security department, which is helping us in terms of City Power infrastructure. At Joburg Water, we don't have that capacity. We only rely at the South African Police Service to help us deal with those. But what we then did was to say, no, this matter has been a national problem. So what we will do is to then procure our own trucks, so that in the next 3 years, or the third financial year, we should afford to have at least 60 of the water trucks, because we are operating at about 60 water tankers throughout Johannesburg. So when we have 60, we think we'll be fine moving forward. Remember, the water tankers are also used in instances where there's disruptions, and also for informal settlements, which we are using the tankers constantly. But in your areas, it's as a result of the disruptions that we are seeing. But the President Park Reservoir has now improved. In Midrand, we have improved because it supplies a larger area within that area. So the President Park has improved in terms of water supply. Midrand area, it has demonstrated improvement in the last 3 days. So we'll just have to monitor what is happening tonight so that we can plan for tomorrow.
Fair?
Yeah, just a few things on that. I think that I understand, and I see the need of getting our own water tanks, but it also normalizes water tanks in our lives, and that's something that we need to admit as well. But the other issue is that we need to get people arrested and in jail for that. It's not enough to just say, okay, we'll buy our own, but we need to unpack that water mafia, because I do think that there are people in government that may or may not have shares in these companies. So the accountability, all that we're doing is that we keep adding on, but there's no accountability to start off of, to give us the trust that we can build and support government in all these paths that they're taking. So that trust is broken. But I want to add something. You mentioned the 56 municipalities of criminal charges on using the National Water Act. That is not on service delivery. It's on pollution. It's because the wastewater treatment works are spewing sewage into the rivers and polluting the environment. It's not on actually getting water to people. We also need to start talking about, we're talking about the suburbs, we're talking nationally, But there are millions of South Africans who do not have access to clean, sustainable water on a daily basis. Informal settlements in the south of Joburg rely on JoJo tanks that need to be filled by water tanks. And we were told by one of these informal settlements that they were told that they're too fast, so they can't fill the JoJo tanks. So the other issue is, are we looking for solutions of the problems? That's not just a knee-jerk reaction. The water shifting and water shedding could cause more harm. So how do we look at this, the solutions, more holistically?
Let me pick up on your earlier point with the Deputy Minister with regards to the so-called water mafia. Is there any work being done within government to try to get to the nub of the issue and find out whether or not politicians are involved in this?
Thank you very much. There is work that is being done, but government alone is not going to succeed. If you remember the turnaround plan that we produced for water, pillar number 5 talks about vandalism and criminality and corruption as a main issue. That's why there's a water and sanitation anti-corruption forum working with the ISIU and other law enforcement agencies, because there are people who think that they can make money out of water and cause problems. But then there's issues of the use of technology. You cannot be in a position where you can deploy every security personnel in thousands and thousands of kilometers. It's practically impossible. We're living at a time where you can't be able to use technology, use drones, but you can use the cadastal, where you can see the pressure going down, you can then be able to deploy. It must be smart security apparatus, what you do. But those that you find, you must act very decisively. In Gauteng, there are even zamazamas that are tapping into the line. There are also other settlements that are settling them, just tapping into the line, and people have no access. But the issue I thought we should address, hey man, when is water going to come back? You know, the students are complaining, everybody complaining. The issue of doing load shifting, Ferrell, from a technical point of view, you don't have an option. It does help. Currently, the rainwater system, as the time I was coming here, is at 37%. But you can see many of the reservoirs in Johannesburg in certain parts have improved. But it is not sustainable. When you do load shifting, what you do, you have technical teams that you need. They must manage the pressure in the valves, because if you don't manage the pressure in the valves, whether your PRVs, your airlocks, the pipes are going to burst. In other words, you must have the teams that are going to be able to respond. But for the citizens, we are thinking as a ministry to give more water into the system, to extract more. Remember, we give 5 billion litres a day to Gauteng. And 2.5 billion litres, they go on the ground. But the reservoirs, so that most of these areas can be able to get water, we have to push the rainwater system to 40%. The municipal systems must be more than that, because we must be honest with people to say, what will it take? In the department, we've agreed, Johannesburg councillors working with the executive mayor, the teams are meeting at 6 o'clock in the morning. Can you tell citizens no later than 10 o'clock to say, in your area, this is how the system looks like, whether it is load shifting, whether it is self-restriction, and tell citizens that in the afternoon, this is how the system will look like. Because if that information is there, citizens themselves have a duty just on the stabilization of the system, so that when the water arrives, they are at home, the taps are closed, but when the water arrives, there is no issues of water hawking. And if we are actually being transparent on those particular parts, it will be able to give us the improvement in the system. But the promises that the mayor has given, that now at the end of March, beginning of March, and the other areas, the other reservoirs are coming. They are going to give us a little bit more of a storage, including these teams that must deal with 10,000 leaks every month. We have to reduce the 10,000 leaks every month, but the turnaround of dealing with them, if we are supporting that particular program, it becomes is. Therefore, council must make it its preoccupation that you don't finish a week without getting a report on the progress that is being made, so that the citizens, they must know and they take some responsibility. Then attend to the areas like schools and other public facilities, because we can't affect other rights like to education, other rights in terms of the well-being.
All right, let's get more comments before we close up. Ma'am, where are you from? And your name?
I'm Dr. Ria Human and I'm from Midrand. My concern is the water tankers. Okay, it's fine to get a few liters to wash and cook, but the school, when you are without water for a week, the schools need to close. The kids cannot, and there's thousands and thousands kids that need to go home for a whole week because you can't keep them in school without water.
That's the situation in Midrand. So where are you from? Your name?
Moritz Preller from Brixton. And yeah, I want to talk about two things. The bigger picture, because the bigger picture is we need to reduce our water usage by about 20% to be within the limits of what Rand Water can supply us. So that's something that I don't see the powers that be address appropriately. And then want to talk about the detail, because this is about the people that suffer on the ground. And Mayor Morero, thank you very much. One half of Brixton's got water, the others are on water tankers. But there is no plan and no detail. So I'm asking for an overall of the information. I want to know when a valve closes and when it opens and who it's going to supply. The information that we get at the moment is meaningless for the people on the ground. That's the one thing. So to hear that our tower that I can see is supplying fairly but not have water in the tap is not okay. And then, yeah, at the ground level, the route that the tanker is going to follow, the time that it's going to arrive, the fact that it should visit every street, these things are important. People cannot cope with the way that it's working at the moment.
Thank you very much indeed. All right, we've got about a minute left, and I think I've got two more people just to get through. Let's get your name and where you're from and the issue.
I'm Liliana from Johannesburg South, and my question is really about the billing. According to Section 126B of the National Credit Act, it says that prescribed debt and interest for that is older than 3 years cannot be billed if there is no ongoing case about it already in acknowledgement. Why then is this been added to the bills for the people to have to pay, and on top of that they've been asked to sign acknowledgement of debt for this that shouldn't be billed to them at all, which is illegal, and also why are the meters that are being used, that are being taken readings from, that are over 15 years old and uncalibrated, being taken as a proper reading?
So that's a billing issue, Mr. Mayor. We'll come to you in that. So your name and where you're from?
Zubair Patel. I'm from the south of Johannesburg, a citizen of the city, the province, and indeed the country. You know, we have this little joke that goes around in our area. It's called TTT. TTT is tender truck time. And this comes around every 3 months. So, you know, we don't need AI. We don't need anything sophisticated to tell us when they're going to strike. We need to get to the bottom of this. The tanker mafia are part and parcel of the problem. And if and when they do get caught, are they going to stand trial for treason?
Right. Another accountability issue. I'm not sure if you're going to get all the answers in the allotted time that we have, but this can't be a once-off conversation, obviously. So we will endeavor to have a part 2, perhaps, to get some of the answers. But let's get some final thoughts, starting with you, Mr. Mayor, with regards to some of the questions that you've heard.
Well, I think on the billing issues, where there's problems, there's queries, we attend to those queries. But what we have done now, we're doing what is called debt rehabilitation. Those that have been owing us around 36 months or 3 years, we go through a process to remove the other 50%, write it off, and they then have to pay us the 50%. But I must also upfront say so that property rates do not prescribe. They probably prescribe after 20 years because it's tax. So those we will have to of course, collect regardless of the period, unless it's over 20 years. And of course, lastly, I just want to say to the residents who have been affected that in essence, we're doing everything we can, we're pushing. Where there are weaknesses, we appreciate feedback that says trucks were not here. So we need to improve our communication and make it friendly and easier for customers. I think it's the call that have been made even in last week, public meetings, the same call was made, improve on your communication and simplify your communication.
I've been told to wrap up, but Deputy Minister, I know I'm going to get into trouble for this, but we had a caller asking about the Giani water project. Do you have an update on that?
In Guyana, currently 24 villages out of 55, they've got water. We are adding additional money to help the municipality. But my last point, the President has directed us to be here. We want water in Johannesburg and all parts of our country in the tap. We are in a journey to do stabilization. We are going to work together with communities, but also with the private sector and experts. But more importantly, Johannesburg has a good plan in water. Right. We must support it and be disciplined on its execution.
10 seconds to you,
Okay, so there's been lots of words since SONA. There's the Water Crisis Committee, but they need to realize they can't do this with the people who have been doing stuff on the ground, civil society and activists across the country. Also, activists are being attacked in other parts of the country when they're challenging water issues, and that's something that government needs to do. Right. The issue is trust and accountability, and trust is earned, and without that, and also we need to move away from the knee-jerk reaction and just trying to fight fires and have a sustainable view of what's going on with our water. We don't have that.
Ariel, thank you so much indeed. Deputy Minister, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much indeed for your time, and our audience as well. I hope that we're moving somewhere forward in terms of getting you some answers, but hopefully there's some sustainable solutions in the pipeline. Thank you very much indeed. All right, before we go, here's my take, and I've said this before and I'll say it again. I have often heard people saying that I can manage without electricity, but I can't manage without water, right? Talks to how precious this resource is. By the way, it shouldn't be either or. That shouldn't be the standard. We should have both access to water and electricity, period. Water is mentioned explicitly in the Constitution, and Section 153 places the responsibility on the municipalities to ensure the provision of services, right? A municipality must structure and manage its administration and budgeting and planning processes to give priority to the basic needs of the communities. And those who neglect their responsibility, as you heard today, that A word, accountability, they must be held accountable. And again, I say, don't play with legitimate pain. Don't play around with legitimate frustration. It's about staying ahead of the problems. It's about the ability to get something done. And it's about the sense of urgency. And that's my take. If you miss anything on this program, then be sure to watch this episode of Topical on YouTube, as well as SABC Plus. If you're watching a repeat of this program, then as always, the news continues. Unwrap Africa up next. Until next week, my brothers and sisters, take care. Bye-bye.